It's just gone 6:30 and you're watching East Midlands Today. Tonight, who is responsible for flood prevention? A simple question with a complicated answer. We investigate whether enough is being done to protect homes and businesses. One community built their own defences during the floods last week and are now demanding answers.
It really has been really challenging. For us here as a local residents, this is a problem for us. We need this solving.
They're in a desperate situation. Their property is about to flood, but I would not recommend it because it could, in certain circumstances, cause more problems for other residents.
Tonight we're on the front line of the NHS hearing about winter pressures in this new ward, hearing from patients and staff.
And we find out why children at a school in Leicester have planted a tiny forest.
It helps people with breathing, and I'll be happier because then you can breathe more easier.
Hello and welcome to Thursday's East Midlands Today with me, Emily Anderson. Good evening. First tonight, just who do you turn to if your home's about to flood, and who's responsible for trying to prevent it? We now know hundreds of homes were deluged in last week's floods in Leicestershire. Tonight we'll be putting a series of key questions to Leicestershire County Council about who's responsible for fighting floods and why they're now so bad. But first, we meet a man who led a small army of DIY dam builders who carried out their own emergency operation to save their homes from flooding. Helen Astle reports.
More than a week since the flooding, and the dams and trenches that residents dug to keep water out of their homes are still clear to see. Ex-Royal Engineer Ben Stockley devised the plan and rallied the neighbours.
A little bit of sense of panic, but kind of how are we going to solve this problem? So yeah, kind of quickly grabbed a spade, started knocking on neighbours' doors. In the end, it was, very much a community effort. I started digging with a couple of neighbours, but by the end of it, that kind of two or three of us had grown to, I would think, about 30 or so people, all coming down over the course of, good number of hours out there in the cold, similar to what it is today, cold, numb fingers, people not with the right shoes on, just, whatever they could grab quickly to come out and help, shovel in hand.
In total, residents dug around 400 metres of trenches to divert the water away from their homes.
By the time we kind of pushed it into the stream that's further down, I was like, right, well, there's not much more we can kind of do here. Better try and get back on with some work now and kind of get back on with the day. So yes, that was good. We kind of declared victory, if you like, at that point, and headed in.
The water came from a nearby balancing pool. Since the flooding, Ben has been trying to find who's responsible for it.
Kind of clarity of information has been quite challenging to work through. There's numerous kind of organisations, the original landowners. This is a new build estate, so the estate developers, the local council, the wider council. But then also there's kind of national agencies that might be involved in this and the regulations around those. So it really has been really challenging, and actually, say trying to cut through that fog, that muddy water of who's responsible for this and who can we get to actually do something. For us here as a local residents, this is a problem for us. We need this solving.
The water may have gone, but residents here say that the worry as to whether it'll happen again remains. Helen Astle, BBC East Midlands Today, Leicestershire.
Well, Leicestershire took the brunt of the recent flooding, and we've now had some figures through showing just how hard hit it was. These numbers are from the Leicestershire Resilience Forum. 883 properties in the county were flooded. The fire service received 380 calls for help. 60 people were rescued from properties and 27 from cars, while more than 160 roads were flooded. So earlier this week, we spoke with the Environment Agency to put to them some of the points you've made to us about flooding. Tonight, it's the turn of the local authority, in this case, Leicestershire County Council. Amy Payne caught up with Councillor Ozzie O'Shea, Cabinet Member for Flooding, and she started by asking his reaction to the recent extreme weather.
Well, it's very concerning. This is the first time we've had such a flood like this. My heart goes out to the people that have been flooded.
So many people affected, as you say, and we've seen how people struggle to find out who's responsible when floods happen. Some of our viewers feel there's sometimes buck passing between different agencies, between the authorities like the County Council and the Environment Agency. Is that feeling justified?
No, I think people do feel, probably when they're in that situation, they don't know where to turn and who to go to. Now, you can come to the County Council because we are the lead flood authority, but in that we have no budget for flooding, we have no statutory powers for flooding. But what we do the investigations and we liaise with the EA and Severn Trent and all the relevant authorities who have that power and have the funding.
Many people tell us they suspect drains are not being maintained and cleaned as they should. Now, you're responsible for many drains. Can you confirm the County Council has been cleaning out all the drains it manages?
I can confirm that. We have a systematic system. It's on digital base. We clean the drains regularly. They're on a programme, but we do keep our drains clean. So
drain cleaning has never been a casualty of tight council finances?
Certainly not. We prioritise our drain cleaning. As I just said, they're on a programme.
We've seen people taking their own action to divert floodwaters, for example in Loughborough with the DIY dam. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I can understand residents wanting to do that. I mean, they're in a desperate situation, their property is about to flood, but I would not recommend it because it could, in certain circumstances, cause more problems for other residents.
Being totally honest, is there actually anything that any authority can do to prevent flooding?
We try our best to do that and we work with the EA, but you must admit, nowadays we have climate change, which is a major problem. This incident last week was far greater than Storm Henk. The rivers were at record levels and, we had the snow before, that started to melt. We had constant rain for 24 hours and that built up the pressure and the water tables. And if you've got drains that are working properly, they're flowing to the rivers, but the rivers are full and backing up, it then comes back and surcharges. And it's not the matter that the drain is blocked, it's a matter that there's so much water pushing it out.
Unprecedented,
yes.
As you said there. Well, for now, Councillor Ozzy O'Shea, thank you so much for talking to us.
You are most welcome.
Amy Payne reporting there. You're watching East Midlands today, and next tonight, the winter war going on in our hospitals. A perfect storm of flu, COVID and RSV respiratory virus has been a major challenge for the health service. At Nottingham's Queen's Medical Centre, they've opened a new ward to help take the strain. Well, our cameras have been given access to that hospital today. So let's now join our health correspondent, Rob Sissons, who is there tonight. And Rob, they've opened a special ward.
Yeah, 28 more beds here at the Queen's Medical Centre, and it's all to cope with the winter pressures which we hear of year after year, don't we? The last few days have eased off a little bit after a really tough time. The hope is that the pressures may have peaked. We'll hear more about that in a moment. But first, let's have a look inside that new ward. On the new ward, Nick's experienced the pressures the A&E unit's under firsthand.
I went to casualty early in the morning and I was still there early in the morning the next day. They give me a bed to sleep on in a corridor overnight, which is not ideal, but I was grateful for that.
The new 28-bed unit at the Queen's Medical Centre provides much-needed extra capacity.
It's really difficult. It's more difficult in terms of flu and viruses, flu A norovirus, than it was last year. We've had flu and norovirus coming together following a spike of respiratory syncytial virus as well.
Another of the patients, Stephen, a retired taxi driver. He says the strain the staff are under is clear and welcomes the new facility.
I think it's good to have opened this extra ward, to keep the pressure off.
The pressure is to maintain good patient care and safety, which is always at the top of my head all the time, to make sure that my patients are being well looked after. So that is always the forefront of the pressures that I would face here as a sister on the ward.
In itself, it's not going to get rid of all the pressures, is it? It's not going to get rid of the pressure at the front door, but you hope will help in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the first time in many, many years that we've had a winter ward here at the QMC campus. Previous years have been at City, so we've done on both campuses this time. So it will certainly help because we have inter-hospital transfers over to City, whereas this provides us with an opportunity for patients coming into our emergency department and assessment areas at QMC to come up to a ward.
Finding precious beds for patients is one challenge right now. Getting medically fit patients out of hospital, another. Now let's bring in Dr. Tasso Gaziz, who you saw in that report. You've got a big job in charge of looking at the flow of patients. We know all about the problems of that. You've been in the NHS for more than 30 years. Do you sense the peak of the winter pressures is over yet?
So we can certainly see that in our hospitals here in Nottingham, the number of people who are inpatients with or because of flu is coming down. The number of people being admitted with flu is also on its way down. And critically, we've had some trouble with norovirus, and again, norovirus is on its way down.
Now let's take a look at a graph that we've got which shows flu. At the end of November, in the East Midlands main hospitals, there were more than 70 patients with flu in beds. Now it's over 200, so it's still adding a significant pressure, isn't it, onto the health service?
Oh, I mean, undoubtedly, at the end of last week, we had nearly 100 people in hospital either with flu or because of flu. And of course, what you don't want to do is mix people with flu with people who don't have flu, because you then end up sort of giving people who are in patients flu.
So a new ward, it is helping, but there's still patients being looked after in corridors in A&E. We've heard controversy about that from the Royal College of Nursing. It's not great, is it?
No, it isn't great, and nobody could pretend it is great. I mean, the position we're in Nottingham is that we have fewer people on corridors now than we had at this time last year, and that's due to a number of things. An awful lot of work from our ED team, a lot of pressure that they're absorbing together with teams across the hospital, but also work with EMAS and work with our wider system.
Dr. Gaziz, thanks very much. As you can hear, the pressure's still very much on, and we'll be hearing more about this, no doubt, as winter carries on.
OK, Rob, thanks very much. Let's take a look at some of the other stories in the news tonight. And more than 200 e-scooters have been seized by Derbyshire police since it began a crackdown in November. The force has been getting tougher on the vehicles and immediately taking them away when they're being ridden in public. Most of them have been removed in the city centre and surrounding suburbs. They can only be used on public land if they're hired as part of a government-approved scheme. Nottinghamshire Police says it's disappointing that half of drivers tested for drink and drugs were charged over the festive period. 84 motorists were charged with criminal offences. 2 drivers, one in Mapley and another in Aspley, were found to be more than 4 times over the legal limit in a breath test. They'll appear in court next month. The figures were lower than last year, though, when 109 people were charged. Drawn up a shortlist of 5 bidders to build a prototype fusion power plant in Nottinghamshire. The plant will be built on the site of the former West Burton power plant near Retford, which is now being demolished. The government says it's announcing record funding into fusion energy, which will make for clean power and thousands of jobs.
We talk a lot about the clean energy transition, and this is the clean energy transition happening in practice. An old coal-fired power station site becoming a new prototype fusion site for the future. That's what part of this money is all about. It's so important for Nottinghamshire. I know there's huge support in the local community, huge excitement in the local community. The East Midlands Mayor, Claire Ward, massive supporter of this, and I think there's huge potential for the area.
Now, most of us hopefully live happily side by side, but you can't choose your neighbours. For the unlucky few, the behaviour of the people living nearby can be unbearable. One social housing tenant from Nottinghamshire had to put up with drug taking outside her flat, windows being smashed and noise at all hours. The problems she and others have faced were the subject of a special debate in Parliament last week, as our political editor Peter Saul reports.
You just keep pouring anybody in the flats, and it's not fair. Why did they put people what's got drug problems, mental problems? They just dump them. Bye.
This is Sarah. She asked us not to show her face because she fears for her safety.
The first week I was here, there were people in my porch smoking weed, sleeping. There were 3 people in my porch.
She came here to flee an abusive relationship, but her neighbours have made her life hell.
Windows went through, 4 of them, been boarded up for 2 years. But I'll only sleep for 4 hours, then I'm awake like that. And I get this anxiety and I'm checking all my windows. This is every morning. So I'm thinking, are they going to come and put my windows through?
What kind of an impact has all of this had on you?
I isolated my son. I mean, it's like, since I come in, our doctor has upped my medication 4 times because I was going as if I can't go out at flat. I mean, I come here just to try and heal, but it's made me feel worse living here. It's been awful.
Should we have a look back at some of the debate last week? The experiences of Sarah and others prompted a recent debate in Parliament, opened by Sarah's MP, Lee Anderson.
I believe in a 3 strikes and out sort of rule, where you give them a warning, then another warning, and then on the 3rd warning, you're gone.
His constituency neighbour, though, thought the Ashfield MP was being uncharacteristically charitable.
Now, I would argue that this proposition is somewhat too liberal and lenient and doesn't go far enough to address the issues. Yes, I will, indeed.
Lee Anderson.
I'm actually astounded that the Honourable Member for Mansfield disagrees on this point, but will he now agree to a 1 strike and out rule?
Well, Steve Yem.
I think that's exactly what I'm saying.
For all the talk in Westminster, Sarah, watching on, is not convinced that much will change.
This has been going on for years. It's not the first time he's been in Parliament talking about it, is it?
They focus quite a lot on this idea of 3 strikes and you're out.
Yeah.
Is that enough, do you think? You know, some were saying it should just be 1 strike.
1 strike, yeah. Well, I've just explained to you what I went through. It were 2.5 years that I had to put up with, so 1 strike and yeah. So are they going to change it? What's going to happen? What they're going to do to improve it? What they're going to do?
Peter Saul, BBC East Midlands Today.
Well, it's time for the sport now with Colin, and a bit of a torrid time for Leicester City at the moment.
Oh, yes, it's very tricky there. Very good evening to you. Leicester City's miserable start to the new year, as Emily says, continues. 6 Premier League defeats in a row now after losing 2-0 at home to Crystal Palace last night. The manager, Ruud van Nistelrooy, says it's the lowest he's felt since he joined the club 6 weeks ago, and it's an extremely big challenge. He insists, though, that he can turn things around. Natalie Jackson reports.
After avoiding a points deduction, Leicester needed to add to their tally on the pitch. And the stage was set with a huge game against Crystal Palace. And in the first half, Leicester were the brighter of the 2 teams, with talisman Jamie Vardy, Stilroy in a fog.
We wanted to prove today that we were growing and we improved and show that in today's game, and we did that for 45 minutes, I think very well. But of course it's about being consistently performing over 90 minutes. And we're not there yet.
As the sun came out here at the training ground, Ruud van Nistelrooy was keen to stress the positivity at his press conference this lunchtime. And this Fulham game this weekend is huge and a massive opportunity to lift the gloom. Natalie Jackson, BBC, East Midlands Today.
Now, Derby County fans could get their first look at new signing Lars Jørgen Salvesen as soon as this weekend. The Norwegian striker's only just arrived in Derby and hasn't played since the end of the Norwegian season in November. But Paul Warne says he won't hesitate to throw him on if he looks ready.
I think it'd be a really good addition for us. It's a big It's a step, it's a change of life for him, a change of country, a change of football, a change in intensity. So, I'm not putting massive pressures on him, but in the same way, I still would try and do everything we can to help him hit the ground running.
In other sport, we've got a special guest on the way, but first, a great opportunity for Leicester snooker star Mark Selby to do something special at the Masters at Alexandra Palace. It's a title he's won 3 times in the past, but a tournament he's struggled in for the last decade or so. No sign of those struggles in his last 16 demolition of Ali Carter, which has set up tonight's quarter-final against Mark Allen. You can see the opening frames over on BBC Two on iPlayer at the end of this programme. No such success for British tennis #1 Katie Boulter, though. The Leicestershire star knocked out the Australian Open at the second round stage. And it's known as Britain's most brutal race, and it's been won by a runner from Nottingham. The Montagne Winter Spine starts in Derbyshire. It sees athletes race 268 miles non-stop through the Pennines to Scotland. They face snow and testing terrain. They carry their own kit and sleep where they can. The winner in the women's race was Nottingham's Lucy Gossage, who crossed the finish line after 87 hours. Second place went to another local athlete, Robin Cassidy from Derbyshire. Now, it's time to introduce you to our special guest this evening. Welcome back to the studio, Derby boxing star, British and Commonwealth welterweight champion, Horrible Harry Scarf. Thank you so much for coming in here, because you defend those belts against Conor Walker at the Motorpoint Arena in Nottingham a week on Saturday, don't you? Our chance to build up. Listen, been up and down a couple of years for you, hasn't it? You beat Echo Esserman to win those belts, but then you missed out when you went for a world title eliminator. Is this fight the start of that climb back to the top, back to that position?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a climb back to a world title shot. I'm going to cement my place as UK #1 and then, look to push on again.
I remember your confidence when we came to see you in the build-up to the Echo Esserman fight. You were the underdog, but you just exuded this confidence. It was justified. How key is that to you, do you think, the way you fight?
Yeah, I'm a very confident fighter. I'm very confident in my ability. And I like it when there's, a bit of a point to prove, in a similar with the Echo fight. And, it's going to be the same this time round. Conor Walker's had a good couple of fights, but I'm going to show people why I'm the UK #1.
Do you think your back's a little bit against the wall? Do you like it when you're under pressure like that?
Yeah, I do. I do quite like it when it's like that. I think it's bookies have got it close. So, I like it when, and I'll go out and I'll show that this isn't going to be close. This is going to be dominant.
It's not just about matching up, though, is it? It's about style. I mean, he's in form, as you said, but he's also all aggression, isn't he? All front foot. How do you think you're set up to deal with that?
Yeah, he's all front foot, but I think he's got one style. I've got many. I can do many things in the ring. That's why I'm called Horrible Harry Scarf. So I'm going to show him that on the night.
Let's talk about location, because it is a local fight. I mean, he's from Wolverhampton, so he's not a million miles away, but you're from just up the A52 in Derby from the arena. So presumably, lots of fans and a big atmosphere on your side. Is that what you're hoping for?
Yeah, I've got lots of Derby faithful coming down. Derby will be, made in the house, making lots of noise on the night, and only down the road. So it's perfect. It's brilliant. This is. It's almost a home do.
And is that big for you? Does that matter?
Yeah, that does matter. It's something that I've not had before since my early career, where I was on smaller hall shows. My big fights have always been far away. So it does matter. I'm glad to have one so close to home. Yeah.
Well, it'll be great to see how you get on. Thank you very much for coming in, defending his British and Commonwealth welterweight belts at the Nottingham Arena a week on Saturday. Horrible Harry Scarf. That's your sport.
Fantastic stuff. Good luck, Harry. There is nothing horrible about you. Next tonight, children in Leicester have planted a whole forest. Well, actually, it's a miniature one. But pupils hope that it will make a big difference. Ayres Monsell Primary School have created the 30th tiny forest in the city. The idea uses a specialist Japanese method that encourages trees to shoot up quicker. Malia Carty reports.
Tiny forests made by tiny gardeners. This primary school has created a mini habitat the size of a tennis court that will support the environment and help kids connect with nature.
Planting trees today, and it's good for the environment, and we're planting oak and hazel.
I think it will be fun, then everyone can sit under and calm down when they're having a bad day.
Areas like these are designed to attract more than 500 animal and plant species. Nearly 18,000 new trees have been planted thanks to Leicester City Council's partnership with Earthwatch Europe.
One of the reasons why we do this is to provide a space for the children at the school to really sort of engage with nature and take part in outdoor learning, but also to provide a space for animals and plants, for biodiversity reasons.
By the time these children finish school, the trees should be big enough for them to sit under. Malia Carty, BBC East Midlands Today.
What a fantastic idea. Well, it's time for the weather now with Anna. And on my lunch break today, I went on a beautiful walk, winter sunshine. It was just perfect. Is that how it's going to stay?
No.
Oh.
And not everyone had the sunshine either, Emily. And for some of us, didn't we hang on to that mist and fog out there in places? But as Emily had in her lunch break, some beautiful blue skies in places across the East Midlands. Look at Lady Bower behind me. Absolutely stunning out there. But we'll see little in the way of blue skies as we head through the rest of the week. It is going to be quite a cloudy story, actually, but settled. We've got an area of high pressure sitting out to the southeast of us. That's still keeping any weather fronts at bay for the next few days. But as we go through this evening and overnight tonight, we're expecting to see a gradual increase in cloud. It's all feeding in from this area of cloud sitting to the southeast of us. So turning extensively cloudy overnight tonight. There will be a few pockets of mist and fog in places, but nothing extensive expected. Temperature-wise, not as cold as last night. We should be frost-free tonight, lows of 3 degrees Celsius. So we start Friday with all that cloud with us. Now, there'll be a little bit more in the way of breeze through Friday, so that should help to move that cloud a little bit, lift it to bring some brighter spells as we go into the afternoon. But still, quite a bit of cloud will hang around through times. Highs there, 7, maybe 8 degrees Celsius, so about average or just above for some of us through Friday. As we go into the weekend, it is remaining settled. There will be some fog around, maybe extensive actually, for Saturday morning, but it's another dry day. The cloud again hopefully will break up a little bit, perhaps into the afternoon to see a brighter spell here and there, but temperatures that little bit lower. Chillier feel to things on Saturday with highs of 5 degrees Celsius. Could see a bit of frost to take us through into Sunday. Another lower than average temperature day, highs of 4 degrees on Sunday, but those temperatures seem to jump up a little bit as we go into start of the new week. Still no significant rain over the next 7 days, but perhaps maybe from next week, end of next week onwards.
Thanks, Anna. Well, that's all from East Midlands Today tonight. Monica is back with your late news, but from all of us here, have a great evening. Bye for now.